Meanwhile, the Trump administration is taking aim at Iran today, with officially designating the country's Revolutionary Guard as a terrorist organization. Now, this could set the stage for a major fight in the Middle East. RT correspondent John Huddy joins us with more on this major development. Thanks for joining us, John.
You're welcome.
Okay, so let's start off. What exactly did the Trump administration do?
Yeah, well, the Trump administration, Scotty, officially put Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or IRGC as it's known, on the U.S. State Department's list of designated foreign terrorist organizations, thus joining other groups such as ISIS, Boko Haram, Hamas, and Al-Qaeda, among many others that are on this particular list. Now, the designation, Scotty, went into effect today, and it certainly raises concerns about the specter of war, particularly between the U.S. and Iran. The IRGC runs Iran's ballistic missile and nuclear programs. It's often referred to as the Elite Revolutionary Guard, run by Qasem Soleimani, the general in charge. It's also tied to the country's shipping and banking industries. The United States says that the IRGC also supports Islamic militant groups around the world. The State Department estimates that Iran and the IRGC funds Hezbollah, which of course is an enemy of Israel, to the tune of $700 million a year, and $100 million for the Palestinian Islamic Jihad and Hamas in the Gaza Strip and Palestinian territories. There hasn't been any official reaction from Iranian leaders today, Scotty, such as the country's president, Hassan Rouhani, though Iranian military leaders, political leaders, have all criticized the Trump administration's policies in the past, the ongoing sanctions against Iran, which this continues to add to and puts pressure on, and also the Trump administration's support of Israel. Now, Israeli, and I mention Israel specifically because Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has urged the U.S. in the past to designate the IRGC as a terrorist organization. So clearly, President Trump appears to be once again falling in line with his friend and ally, Bibi Netanyahu, Scotty.
Well, there's a lot of concern right now, John, with this move that it will potentially lead to war between the U.S. and Iran. Is there any credibility to that wonder?
Well, there's a concern that could happen, that specifically, Scotty, that the Trump administration may be essentially laying the groundwork for a war with Iran, or at least attacks against the country and the IRGC. That's because the Trump administration continues to tie Iran to groups such as Al-Qaeda. So it's possible the administration may be moving closer to using what's called the Authorization for the Use of Military Force Law, or AUMF, in dealing with Iran. You may recall that law was passed after 9/11 and gives the executive branch the authority to use force against, quote, any nations or organizations or persons that it determines planned, authorized, or aided in the terrorist attacks on 9/11, or, and this is a key point, harbored such organizations and or persons, something the Trump administration says Iran has done with Al-Qaeda. So add to that the administration's staunch support of Israel and Israel's own red lines with Iran in Syria and the support of Iran's police proxies, and there is the potential, many would agree, for this to go much further, Scotty. We'll see.
Well, John, that's interesting, and we know this was coming down. President Trump first hinted at this 2 weeks ago. He's now obviously gone through with it today, and it will be interesting to see how this will affect the Middle East and continued efforts going on through peace, hopefully, in the near future. Thank you so much for joining us, John.
You're welcome.
Hey, YouTube.